Hello, my friends. I hope you're having an outstanding day. My name is Ezra Anderson, and today we're going to learn the top 10 things beginners want to know how to do in Affinity Photo. If you're new to this program, this is the one video you need to get started. So go ahead and download the photos we'll be using today in the video description, and let's jump into Affinity Photo and get started. The first thing beginners want to know is how to open images inside Affinity Photo. It's very simple to do this. All you need to do is come up to the top to File and then scroll down to Open. Then you just need to click on the picture that you want to open. If you want to open multiple images, you can hold down Shift and click on Other Pictures. Then we can come down here and press Open. We can see up at the top of Affinity Photo that all of our pictures have opened inside different tabs. By just clicking on these tabs, you can move between the different pictures you've opened. And if you ever want, you can just hover over one of the tabs and press on the X to close that picture. The next thing beginners want to know is how Affinity Photo is organized. Over here on the left side, we have all of the tools you need to edit your pictures. Whenever you click on one of these tools, you'll have different options appear up here at the top. These options at the top are called the contextual toolbar. Depending on which tool you have open, you'll have different options inside the contextual toolbar. Over on the right side of Affinity Photo, we have our studio. Inside of the studio, we have different panels, like the histogram panel, color panel, and the adjustments and layers panels. Throughout this video, we'll learn how to use a couple of these panels and a few of the tools over on the left side. If you ever want to add or remove some of the panels from your studio, all you need to do is come up to the top to View, and then scroll down to Studio. Then you can turn any of the panels off or on by simply clicking on their name. And if you ever want to reset all of the panels to the way they were when you first opened Affinity Photo, you can come down to the very last option and select Reset Studio. Affinity Photo also gives us the option to customize our tools over on the left side. We can do this by coming to the View menu and then scrolling down near the bottom and selecting Customize Tools. Now we can click and drag on any of our tools to remove them from the Tools area. For example, if I didn't want this healing tool, all I would need to do is click and drag on it over here, and then it would disappear. I could do the same for the Node tool and the Rectangle tool. If I wanted to add any new tools, all I need to do is click and drag on them and place them in with the other tools. You can also change the number of columns down here. But if you ever want to reset it back to normal, just press on the Reset button. I'm also going to change mine back to one column. When you're done customizing your tools, you can press Close. Finally, up at the very top left, we have the different personas of Affinity Photo. Right now, we're working inside the Photo persona, which is where you'll do most of your work when editing photos. We also have the Liquify persona, the Develop persona, the Tone Mapping persona, and the Export persona. Persona is just another word for different workspaces inside Affinity Photo. You can see if I click on the Liquify persona, then we have different tools and panels. But if I come to the Export persona, then I'm given a new set of tools and panels. Depending on which persona you're in, you'll have different tools for editing your pictures. But as I said before, you'll typically be working inside the Photo persona. Now that we've taken a look at Affinity Photo's interface, the third thing beginners want to know is how to crop pictures. To crop any photo, we'll need to use the Crop tool. To activate the Crop tool, you can either click on it down here, or you can press the letter C on your keyboard. Then you simply need to drag on any of these handles to bring in the crop. When you're satisfied with your crop, you can either press Apply up here at the top, or press Enter on the keyboard. The great thing about cropping inside Affinity Photo is your original picture is still there. All you need to do is press C for your crop tool, and then you can bring the handles back out to reveal your picture once again. Another great feature of the crop tool is it allows you to straighten your pictures. I'm going to press C for the crop tool, and then I'll come up to the contextual toolbar and select Straighten. Then you just need to click and drag on the part of your picture that should be straight. In this case, we should have a straight horizon line, so I'm going to click and drag to draw a line going across the horizon. Then when you release the mouse, your picture will automatically be straightened to match the line that you drew. You can also rotate your picture by hovering your cursor on the outside corner while you're cropping your picture. Once your cursor turns into these two arrows, you can click and drag to rotate your photo. Then you just need to press Enter to confirm your rotation. Cropping and straightening pictures inside Affinity Photo really is as simple as that. The fourth thing beginners want to know is how to remove imperfections from a photo. In this example, we're going to remove these poles that are sticking out of the water. But before we remove them, we're going to duplicate our image over here. To duplicate our image, you can press Command or Control J. You can see that we now have two copies of the exact same picture. The reason we do this is so that we can work non-destructively. This means we'll keep the original image safe by working on a copy of it. So now that we have a copy of our image, we can make as many changes as we want to the picture, and the original image will always be safe. With our duplicate copy ready to go, our next step is to remove these poles from the water. To do this, we're going to use the In-Painting brush. To find the In-Painting brush, you can click and hold on this Band-Aid icon, and then select In-Painting brush tool. In-Painting is smart content removal. All you need to do is paint over the part of the picture you want to remove, and then Affinity will automatically remove it. So for this example, I'm just going to paint over these poles, and then Affinity will remove them from the picture. Almost like magic, Affinity Photo has removed this imperfection. If you'd like to see a before and after, all we need to do is turn off the duplicate picture that we made earlier in this example. To do this, we'll come over here and turn this checkbox off. Now we're looking at the original picture. But if we turn the checkbox back on, we can see how the duplicate photo looks with the imperfection removed. In this next example, we're going to continue using the In-Painting brush, but this time we're going to use it to remove some small acne from my chin. But before we make any changes to the photo, we're going to work non-destructively by duplicating it. Remember that the shortcut for this is Command or Control J. Next, we need to zoom into the photo so we can see the acne more clearly. If you'd like to zoom into your photo, you can come up to the top menu and select View, Zoom In, or Zoom Out if you want to zoom out of your picture. However, I strongly recommend you memorize the shortcuts Command or Control minus or Command or Control plus to zoom in and out. I'm going to practice using these shortcuts now to zoom into the photo. To zoom in, I'll press Command or Control plus. Then to move around the picture, all you need to do is hold down the spacebar and click and drag. Before we begin in-painting, I also want to highlight a couple of options that you can change in the contextual toolbar. Generally, when you're working with the in-painting brush, you want to change the hardness from 80% to 100%. So I'm going to click and drag to highlight the 80 and then type in 100. Then I'll press Enter to confirm 100% hardness. You can also change the size of your brush over here. Depending on how big the imperfection is, you'll want a different sized brush. Because we're working with very small imperfections, we'll want a smaller brush size. I'm going to change the brush size to just 30 pixels. A great shortcut to change your brush size are the bracket keys underneath the equal sign on your keyboard. If you press the right bracket key, then your brush size will get bigger, and if you use the left bracket key, then your brush size will get smaller. After you've set your brush to 100% hardness and an appropriate width, all we need to do is begin painting over the acne to remove it from the photo. Then to see the before and after, we're going to uncheck our duplicate layer to see the original photo, and then we'll see it with the acne removed. By using the in-painting brush, it's extremely easy to remove imperfections from a photo. But as great as this tool is, it doesn't always do a perfect job the first time you paint over something. If that's ever the case with you, just try painting over the same area again, and generally, it will do better the second or third time. The fifth thing beginners want to know is how to use adjustment layers. Adjustment layers allow you to non-destructively change the colors of your photo. To apply an adjustment layer, we need to press on this icon down here. It looks like a black and white circle. After you click on this icon, you have many options for different adjustments that you can apply to your picture. As an example, let's try applying a black and white adjustment. As you can see, it's automatically turned our picture black and white. It's important to note that every adjustment layer works differently, but in this case, we can use these sliders to determine how bright or dark certain colors become in our black and white picture. For example, if we bring the red slider to the left, all of the reds in our photo will become darker. But if we bring it to the right, then they will become lighter. I thought it looked better darker, so I'm going to bring this slider back to the left. If we come to the cyan, we can change how bright or dark the cyan is in our picture. You can continue this process for the rest of the colors. When you're done adjusting your black and white photo, you can exit out of this dialog box by pressing on the red circle up here. And just as we saw earlier in this video, we can see a before and after by turning this layer off and on. If you ever want to change how your black and white adjustment looks, all you need to do is double-click on this icon right here, and then the dialog box will reappear and you can continue making adjustments. To use adjustment layers effectively, you need to know that every adjustment layer only affects the layers beneath it. So in this case, because our picture is beneath the adjustment layer, it's being affected. But if we were to move our photo on top of the adjustment layer, then the adjustment layer would no longer affect it. To see how this works, I'm going to click and drag on the photo layer and place it above the adjustment layer. You can see our photo layer is now above the black and white adjustment and is no longer being affected. So if you want an adjustment layer to affect your picture, you need to make sure the adjustment layer is above your photo, which you can do by just clicking and dragging. If you ever want to delete a layer, all you need to do is click and drag it down to the trash can over here. As another example of how adjustment layers work, let's try enhancing the colors of this picture. I'm going to click on the Adjustments icon and then select Brightness and Contrast. With this adjustment layer, I'm going to increase the brightness and also increase the contrast. Then I'll exit out of this dialog box. To see a before and after, I'll turn this layer off and on. But it looks like this adjustment layer is a little too strong, so let's go back into that dialog box by double-clicking on this icon and then bring the brightness and contrast not quite so high. Now I'll exit out of this box again and see a before and after. A general editing tip for you is to make small changes to your pictures. Beginners tend to make big changes and it makes their pictures look fake and unrealistic. The more subtle your changes are, the better your editing will become. As a final example of how to use adjustment layers, let's come back to the Adjustments icon and then select HSL. With an HSL adjustment, we can increase the saturation of the colors in our picture. All we need to do is click and drag on this slider. Then I'll exit out of this box and see how the HSL adjustment is improving our photo. If I want, I can hold down Shift and click on this other layer and then turn them both off and on at the same time. Here is the original photo, and here it is with the enhanced colors. There are many other adjustments that we could use to continue enhancing our photo, but we don't have time to learn about all of them right now. If you'd like to learn more about adjustment layers, I'll leave a link in the video description for our complete beginner's guide to Affinity Photo. We spend an entire chapter learning about the most important adjustment layers and how they can improve your pictures. If you really want to learn Affinity Photo, I strongly encourage you to enroll in our beginner's course. The sixth thing beginners want to know is how to use masks. A mask hides or shows parts of a layer. A white mask means a layer is totally visible, while a black mask means a layer is completely invisible. To see how this works, let's try applying a mask to our photo. First, make sure that you have this layer selected. Then we're going to press on the mask icon down here. It looks like a Japanese flag. You can see that we've applied a white mask to our photo. Remember, a white mask means everything is visible. But if we paint black on the mask, then the layer will become invisible. First, I'm going to click on the mask icon to make sure we have it selected. Then I'll come over to the left side and select our paintbrush. Inside our color panel, we can see that we're painting in black. So as we paint black on our mask, the layer will become invisible. This transparency indicates that there's nothing there. This is because we've painted black, making our layer invisible. Fortunately, we can paint white whenever we want to reveal the layer once again. Just press on this arrow right here to switch your color from black to white, and then begin painting in white. You can see as we paint in white, our picture is revealed once again. And just like any other layer, we can turn a mask off and on by using the checkbox. I no longer want this mask though, so I'm going to click and drag this layer to the trash can. Now that we understand the basics of masks, let's see how they apply to adjustment layers. I'm going to come to the Adjustments icon and select Black and White. Then I'll exit out of the dialog box. The great thing about adjustment layers is they come with a pre-built mask. All we need to do is have an adjustment layer selected, and then we can paint in black or white to hide or show it. I'm going to switch my color to black and then begin painting. You can see that the black and white adjustment layer is invisible in all of the areas that I've painted. Because the black and white is invisible, It means all of the original color is being shown from the layer underneath. If we wanted to be more precise with our painting though, we'll need to zoom in to our picture. Remember that you can press Command or Control plus to zoom in. Then we can continue painting to make the black and white adjustment layer invisible. If you ever paint too much, like how I did down here, all you need to do is switch your color from black to white. Then as we begin painting in white, the black and white adjustment layer will be shown once again. When you're painting on a mask, I also recommend you change your hardness from 80% to 0%. If you're painting in 100% hardness, then your brush strokes will be very harsh and noticeable. But if you're painting with 0% hardness, then you can blend the areas of the picture that have the mask black or white. By using a 0% hardness and switching your color between black and white, you can paint precisely on a mask to apply a layer exactly where you want it. Just make sure you have the right layer selected before you begin painting. For example, if we took our original photo and applied a mask to it, then it would make a difference whether we had this mask selected or this black and white adjustment layer. If we have the black and white adjustment layer selected, and then we begin painting in black, we'll be hiding the black and white adjustment. But if we have the mask selected that's applied to our background photo, and then we begin painting in black, we'll hide the original photo. One of the most common mistakes that new users to Affinity Photo make is having the wrong layer selected, so make sure you have the right layer selected before you begin painting. The seventh thing that beginners want to know is how to make selections. The easiest way to make selections is to use the Selection Brush tool. With this tool, all we need to do is paint across the part of the picture that we want to select. As we paint, Affinity will automatically detect the object that we're trying to make a selection of. Let's try painting a selection across the moon. If you ever select too much when using the selection brush, you can always change the mode from Add to Subtract up here in the contextual toolbar. If you're in Subtract mode, then anything you paint across will be removed from your selection. You can also change the width in the contextual toolbar depending on if you're trying to select a bigger or smaller object. If we zoom into our photo though, you'll notice that our selection is not perfect. You can see that it's looking jagged along the edge of the moon. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see the entire moon by pressing Command or Control 0. Now that we've seen how our selection isn't perfect, we're going to refine it by pressing Refine in the contextual toolbar. As you can see, we have quite a few options in the Refine Selection dialog box. In this example though, we want to increase the smooth slider. This will remove all of the jagged edges from our selection. Now we have a nice smooth selection going around the moon. Once you're satisfied with your selection, you can press Apply. With a selection made, we can apply an adjustment layer to only the part of the picture that we have selected. To see this, I'm going to come to the adjustment icon and then apply a recolor adjustment. As you can see, the recolor adjustment is only being applied to where our selection was. This is because a mask has been applied to the adjustment layer. We can see over in the Layers panel that our mask is white in the center where our selection was, and then black everywhere else. As we've already learned, a white mask means the adjustment layer is being applied, as it is here, and a black mask means the adjustment layer is not being applied inside the rest of the photo. I'm going to exit out of this recolor adjustment and then deselect by pressing Command or Control D. Because our adjustment layer is being applied by using a mask, we can use the paintbrush to continue refining where our adjustment layer is being applied. I'm going to press B for my paintbrush, and now anywhere that I paint in white, the adjustment layer will continue to be applied. I'm going to change my color from black to white by pressing X on the keyboard. And then I'm going to use the right bracket key to make my brush width a little larger. Now as I begin painting in white, my adjustment layer will be applied wherever I paint. By using selections and the paintbrush, you can be very precise in the areas that a mask is applied. I think our mask was already looking good though, so I'm going to undo my paintbrush stroke by pressing Command or Control Z. The eighth thing that beginners want to know is how to change the background of their photos. To change the background, the first thing you'll want to do is make a selection of the part of your picture that you want to keep. We could make another selection of this moon, or we could use a shortcut to reload the selection we already made. Because we used our selection to make this adjustment layer, if we hold down Command or Control and then click on the adjustment layer mask icon, it will reload our selection. This is a very helpful shortcut to remember. Now that we have our selection made, we're going to apply a mask to our photo. Remember to have the right layer selected, and then apply a mask. Just as before, our mask has become white wherever our selection was, and black wherever we weren't selected. Now we can press Command or Control D to deselect. If all you want to do is remove the background, then you're done. Just make a selection of what you want to keep and then apply a mask. But if you want to give your picture a new background, we can copy and paste this layer into a different picture. First, we need to open another picture. I'm going to use the shortcut Command or Control O to open a new picture. Then I'll select the desert photo and press Open. Coming back to my moon picture, I'm going to select the layer of the moon and then press Command or Control C to copy. Then I'll come back to the desert photo and press Command or Control V to paste it. As you can see, we've only copied and pasted the moon because that was the layer we had selected. If we wanted to copy and paste the recolor adjustment layer, then we would need to have that layer selected. But because the moon is all we wanted, I'm going to come back over to the desert photo. Now we can move and resize the moon layer by using the Move tool. You can find the Move tool over here or press V on your keyboard. Now we can move the moon wherever we want, or resize it by using any of these handles. If you want the selection box to disappear, you can click anywhere outside of the photo or click off of the layer down in this area. We've now successfully added this moon to the desert photo. The ninth thing that beginners want to know is how to add text to their photo. Adding text is very easy to do in Affinity Photo. All we need to do is select the Artistic Text tool. Then we can click and drag to specify how big we want our text to be. Then you can begin typing. If you want to modify your text, first press Escape to exit type mode. Then with the text box still selected, we can change the text by using the contextual toolbar. Let's change the font. We can also change the font size from the contextual toolbar. We can also make it bold, italicized, or underlined. And if we come over to the color panel, we can change the color of our text. Then with the Move tool, we can resize and position the text. If you ever want to continue typing, all you need to do is select the Artistic Text tool and then click anywhere inside the text box. Then you can continue typing. And of course, you can always reselect the Move tool to position your text box. And finally, we are to the 10th thing that beginners want to know: how to save and export their work. If you want to save this Affinity Photo file so you can continue to work on it later, just come up to the top to File, Save As. This will save your document as an Affinity Photo file so you can continue working on a later date. But if you're completely done with your picture and want to export it, you can scroll down to select Export. As you can see, Affinity has a wide range of formats that you can export your document into. The two most common formats are PNG and JPEG. JPEG is useful because it will export your picture into a small file size, but PNG is useful because it allows you to preserve transparency. Since this picture doesn't have any transparency, let's export it as a JPEG. Right now, you can see the estimated file size is 1.8 megabytes. If we wanted to make that even smaller, we could either change the size up here or lower the quality. By lowering the quality just a little bit, you can dramatically lower the file size. Let's try lowering the quality to 95%. By just slightly lowering the quality, you can see that we've almost cut our file size in half. Now that we have a very small file, we can export our file. Now all you need to do is give your picture a name and choose where you want it to be saved. Then just press on the Save button to export your file. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You now have all the skills you need to get started in Affinity Photo. If this program still seems a little confusing though, be sure to enroll in our Complete Beginner's Guide to Affinity Photo in the video description. It's designed to take your experience with Affinity Photo from looking like this to looking like this. Be sure to enroll, and I'll see you in the next Affinity Revolution tutorial.